there's times where she understands whenever I am in like grind mode. Like for instance, 2 nights ago, I coached all day, and then I had this project that I was working on, this book that I was finishing up that I had to finish, and I worked literally all night. Like I didn't sleep. And then I woke up, or I didn't wake up. I continued my day into the next day, and I had to coach the rest of the day. But that was something that I know is going to build and leave a legacy that in that moment, that's what I had to do.
Yeah.
But she was 100% behind me, like, hey, what do you need? What can I do to help you? And supported me in that. And that's so amazing that, that's a thing that we both brought in and that we both understand about each other. And it's a really cool thing to be able to do that together.
Hi, everybody. Lee Scott here. Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee, where we talk about life, leadership, and legacy, and we help you discover the leader within. I'm super excited that you are here. And if you have not done it yet, go and subscribe to Leading with Lee on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. As you know, I've been in an interesting series of having interviews with some great couples. And today I have an awesome couple with me today. They're some good friends of mine who still live in Tulsa now that I'm in Mississippi, but it's great. I'm so excited to have today Levi and Christina Nickson. How you guys doing?
What's up? We're good. Super pumped to be here with you, man.
Great. I'm so glad that you all said yes to doing this. Levi, you and I have been having a conversation about this for probably way longer than we probably should have. Right. But I'm finally glad that we actually got a chance to do it. So
making it happen.
Yes. It's great. So if you would, for me, just kind of introduce yourselves to our audience and share a little bit about who you both are.
All right. My name is Levi Nickson. I was born and raised here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And my wife and I, Christina, we own a tumbling gym. So we teach like gymnastics type of stuff for people that don't know what tumbling is. We work with, teach a lot of kids that do like cheerleading or kids that do gymnastics or recreational tumbling. And we have 2 kids, 1 kid on the way, 6-year-old Mally, 19 is Armani, 19 months, 19-month-old little girl, Armani. And our next one is a question mark. We don't know, we haven't yet. Which we wait till the baby. We wait till the baby gets here, and then that's whenever we find out. So it's ultimate gender reveal for us.
Huh?
Yeah. So
ultimately, like the best surprise you could ever have in life.
Okay.
So that pretty much sums up what I do, where I'm from, and go ahead, lovely wife.
I am Christina Nickson, and I am living in Tulsa now, but I am a LaSalle, Peru native. Not the country, the city. It's about an hour and a half southwest of Chicago. So that's where I'm from. Education is a counselor, but I gave that up professionally, and I am running the tumbling gym now. So I do the business and administrative side.
Awesome.
I do all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
I do all the flips, and she has to deal with all of like the people's complaints and who are complaining about me, and she's got to deal with that.
Yeah, that's real. See, wise man, you're very wise. But that's great. So thank you all for sharing. I think it's awesome that you all have such a unique and interesting story, and we're going to talk about it because like I've known you all separately. Like I met you all separate at our church. Right. So we always
like then we came together and you know us as individuals, and then you kind of saw our relationship grow.
Yes.
So that was
Yes, which is wild. Like I think what's crazy? I just realized this. So Christina, I think I met you when we were doing the Christmas. No, the Easter production.
Yeah.
it was the Easter production. And I think months later, it's so wild. I met you, Levi, and he had came up for prayer. And I actually prayed for Levi. And it's so crazy to me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I
When
just,
first started going.
yes, I just realized, I was like, wait, that's how I met them. And I'm like, you just never know how people's story just plays out, but it's just one of those things. But kind of talk to me a little bit more about like, how did you all like end up meeting, and like, how has that story kind of played out?
You want to take that one?
Sure. I started going to Transformation Church in 2017, which is where we all met, where I met Julie, and then you guys met there. I met Christina there. So I started going there in 2017. And my daughter, Mally, and I, Mally was like 2 at the time whenever I started going there. So
wow.
I was going through a lot of things as a single parent, which is why I was going up for prayer and stuff that you was praying. I needed help, man. I needed a lot of help. But I got connected with the church, and then I was going to Transformation Church for probably a good year before Christina and I met. And we met in July of 2018, I believe.
Okay.
And then we formed a friendship, and I instantly was crazy, over the top, attracted to her. But I was just trying to, I was just trying to play it cool and just chill, because I was so attracted to her and just like smitten by her that I was making sure that it wasn't just like this crazy crush that I had that would, eventually just kind of go away type deal. So I didn't want to tell her that I had feelings for her, because I was like, I don't know, maybe I just think she's so attractive and she's really not as amazing as I'm making her to be in my head. Turns out that she was, and she is that amazing. But I was just trying to chill and play it cool. And then and we started developing a friendship. And then through the fasting and prayer time at church is when her and I really started getting close, and we both submitted. We talked about it. It came up through friends talking that I have feelings for her, and then they told me that she had feelings for me. And then so we talked about it, and we said, hey, like, let's submit this to God. This is a perfect time during prayer and fasting to see if this is going to even be a thing. And we went through that, man. I mean, prayer. We went to prayer every single night together, along with other people, and then through that journey, then we realized, hey, we believe that God is pulling us together. And then our relationship progressed pretty quickly from there. We started officially dating in February of 2019, and we were married by October of that same year. Hey. So 9 months from dating to marriage, that was the time span between that.
I was having a conversation with somebody about this, but one thing I've learned over the years is that like everybody's story is different, and everybody's story is specific to them. And because we can make the mistake of, telling people, oh, it's supposed to happen this way. No. That's that person's story.
Yes.
Right. Like that is where those two people are in their journeys and in their walks in their lives. This is the right time for them to come in contact with it because they're in the right place at the right time, in the right moment. And that's you all's story. Like, and it's so crazy. By the way, your baby's 7.
Yo, she's 6.
She's
6. Yeah.
But
yeah, bro. She's going into first grade.
Like, that's insane to me.
Yeah.
That is wild. So that's a whole other conversation. The point we're making in this moment, like that's beautiful and an incredible thing. And the fact that you all understood where you were in your journeys and just in your life, and recognizing, okay, we need to take this to God in prayer, because this is our foundation, this is our belief system. So we're gonna go where we believe the answer is.
Right.
And do that. And I know there'll be people that listen to this or hear this or watch this that may or may not have the same values or faith that we have, and they may have a different approach to that. but for you all and for us, that is an important thing, right? And so I think that's super amazing and a beautiful thing to see that people are like, okay, we feeling each other. I see you, but I want you to know that, like, I'm checking it. We better say something, Christina.
Yeah, it seems like it progressed so quickly, right?
Yeah.
But God is truly just the restorer of all time, because we both
Wow.
he came from a previous marriage, right?
Wow.
And he healing and things to just completely get new in his life. And I had moved here after an 8-year-long relationship, who was also engaged to, and broke off the engagement when I moved. And so, you think about that and you think about, okay, I want a marriage and I want a family, and I'm coming up on, these deadlines that society puts on us. We feel ourselves. And then you get to that point and it's like, God restored that 8 years. God restored the time, the healing and the divorce and everything that he had to go through, and expedited our time frame together, where it was, dating February, engaged July, married October.
Wow. I mean, that's a full-term pregnancy. In a sense, but I think that's really awesome. And I think a lot of people need to experience that type of restoration, because relationships are hard. Especially if you what are you about to say?
Also, if I could piggyback off of something that you said, Lee, earlier about, our values and our morals and in our faith, even if, whether somebody that's watching this is a Christian or whatever they believe in, but when it comes down to it, what is so incredibly important for relationships is to be on the same page as far as your values and your morals, which is why earlier I said, because just seeing her, obviously she was at church, but everyone that goes to church doesn't necessarily mean that, they're following.
Talk about it, Levi.
So I didn't just want to think that she was a super pretty girl that was at church and just based off her looks. So that's why I kind of, didn't express initially my feelings towards her. But whenever it came down to it, that is what I saw in her.
Yeah.
It through, the prayer and the fasting and seeing the way that she lived life. But I even told her, this was before we were dating, coming out of a previous marriage, that I would rather have a wife that is completely just over the top for God, and, because that's my values, my belief system, and that is way less attractive physically than to have someone that is very attractive and is not, doesn't have the same values that I do.
Right.
But I was blessed to have both. So God, he was like, okay. It was kind of like whenever the story about the sacrifice in the Bible, whenever God, he said, hey, since you're showing me that you're faithful, and then he sent the ram out for him to sacrifice. That's what I think he was doing. So he saw that, like, I said that out loud, and I was thinking that he was like, you know what, I'm gonna just go ahead and give him everything.
He was like, let me exceed your expectations.
That's what he said. So
that's great. I think that's super encouraging. Like, literally, that's something that's been said to me personally at this point in my life, because we Levi, that's so good, because I think we sometimes underestimate God's goodness towards us. Like we should expect him to be good, but sometimes we don't expect him to be good to us, and whatever that looks like. Now in this case, it is very specific to you, right? But just a simple fact, Levi, it actually says a lot about you as a person, that a natural proclivity was not more important than what your value system was, right? Like, you didn't let that become more important than what you felt like you needed. And so because you want, your needs were in the right place, he gave you your wants.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep. That's perfect. Yep.
And I think that's so incredible. And that's should encourage people really to like pursue doing what God called them to do, or just being intentional about what they want. And we're talking about specifically about relationships, but like in any area, like being very much so like, hey, I'm doing this because this is what I know I'm supposed to be doing. And because I want to pursue the right thing, I'm going to have the right intention and the right mindset. So therefore, I'm going to go and do the next thing that's possible. Right. So I'm just going to move the conversation a little bit along. You shared in your intro that you all work at your business, Tumble Smart. I just want to talk to you a little bit about that, because I understand it's a large undertaking. And Levi, how long have you had Tumble Smart?
Since 2015 is whenever I opened up the actual doors of Tumble Smart, brick and mortar part of it. I started working as doing freelance training as a tumbling coach in 2014.
Okay.
So I did it for about a year before I actually opened up my gym.
Got you.
Independent, but I worked at different tumbling gyms and stuff prior to that.
Okay, got you. So that journey of you starting a business and like doing this work, and you've been engaged in it for a number of years. How have you all, and then now you got married, and now Christina's a part of that process. Like, how are you navigating your work life with your marriage, and how is that dynamic working out? And how are you trying to approach that really well? He deferred. He was like, I'm gonna give this to you.
Answer first, and then I'll follow up to see if we're on the same page.
Working together is not something that everybody can do. And we hear that time and time again when we say that we own a business and run it together. Like, man, good for you guys. I could never do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. For me, that's personally always what I saw for my life. But I also had that example of my mom and my dad working side by side.
Wow.
And my sister and her husband working side by side. So for me, it was like my dream to be able to pour into my husband and to the business that he started, and just be able to build that. And so it's truly been like a dream come true.
Wow.
To be able to see his dreams and build them with him.
Wow.
Or just so I think as far as like the work-life balance, that's a hard thing to, like, when people say work-life balance, I think it ebbs and flows. Because you're gonna have, like, we talk about all the time on the way here to talk with you, we were talking about having some more time together, but then we have goals as a family in financial things, and where we're trying to take our business that we have to work more to reach those things. But we know it's a season. We know it's a season of life. So we communicate all the time about it. Like we're very intentional about, hey, do we need to pull back on the schedule some more? Or if we're at a time to where we're putting some money back in order to reach a certain goal, or for something that we're doing, then we say, hey, let's go ahead and put our foot on the pedal a little bit more now at this time. And I mean, the thing is, we're together like 90% of the time, like whenever we're up here at the gym working together. We even have our kids with us all the time whenever we're here coaching, and it's beautiful because the whole family is together pretty much all the time. Now, of course, that's not all quality time. So I know for myself, I have to figure out what quality time is, and that's what we talk about all the time. And I'll ask her, if we're going to a certain situation, I'm like, hey, do you see this as quality time? Because sometimes, man, you don't know. Like, you're thinking it's quality time.
Oh, yeah.
No, this is not quality. So, like, for me, us being together all the time, that's also a dream come true, because I want to be able to work alongside my wife and us be together all the time. But, us being at work for 9 hours together, that's not, in her opinion, us spending time together. Into the office while I'm out here and I'm coaching, I'll go in and I'll give her a hug and a kiss and talk for a little bit and get back to what I was doing. And it's it's all a lot of fun to me, but yeah.
You're learning, brother. You're learning. I think that's so awesome. Like, there are several things that you all said that I'm like, that's so great, because, I think sometimes we underestimate I think we underestimate the things we pray about, or the things we would desire, and how it shows up. Like the fact that, Christina, you literally said, as soon as you said, I saw myself working with my spouse in their business, and then having examples of that in your life, it's almost like God was like, Christina I know what she wants. Let me,
bro, for real.
Like he was like, let me cause her to move to a place she didn't even grow up. Absolutely. Let me allow him to go. What were you saying?
She didn't even know where Oklahoma was on the map. She just took this job. She had other jobs that she could have taken, and she moved here. I was going through what I was going through. We talk about that all the time, bro. Like, it is absolutely, there's so many different things that could have happened that this wouldn't have happened, and it's phenomenal.
It's also that obedience and just hearing God and submitting it to Him. And when you do that, it's insane what can truly come of it, and how He truly just wants to bless us and give us the desires of our hearts.
I think these interviews are for me. Honestly, like, you all and the Bagbies who I talk to, like, I've been so encouraged listening to couples, because exactly what you said, Christina, like, that's so true. That is so true. And I think we live in a society and culture that tries to fit pieces into places out of, how can I say this nicely? I think we do certain things out of the fear of it not working, right? Like I think we become antsy. I know for me, my own life, I'm like, now y'all understand where I'm coming from. But I'll be 29 this year, and I did not think that my life will look like how it looks, right? Like, I look at the family examples, like my parents, by the time they were my age, they were married for like 9 years, had 2 kids. I'm not saying I was gonna get married as young as they were, but you start to unconsciously compare outcomes based on what you think is supposed to happen, rather than trusting that God is going to be faithful to you, and that, like, it's going to work out. Like, all of these things are considerations, right? Like, all these things are,
like, going back to whenever I was talking about the whole Abraham-Isaac sacrifice situation.
Yeah.
Abraham, for example, like, he didn't have his kids until 100 years old? So,
which is crazy.
You know what I mean? But you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a lot of times how God works. It's on His timeline, and it
doesn't always look like what we think it should look like.
Or if you force it, then you get into the wrong thing, which people experience. So you have to be patient on Him, and even if you're like, well, by this time I'm going to do this, and by this time I'm going to do this. And
it's way easier said than done.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yes.
Waiting can be hard, waiting on that promise, but He's faithful. He's faithful.
Oh, we could stay there all day, but we cannot, because that is so good. But kind of moving along a little bit, like, you all work together, you all are engaging with each other. Like, obviously there's a certain lifestyle that you all live as a byproduct of the fact that, like, you're working, Levi, you're working with kids all day, and you're teaching them how to, like, learn how to flip, that, like, making sure they have the right diet. Like, you have to have the right diet. You all are probably some of the healthiest people I know. Don't do that, Levi. but or at least some of the fittest people I know. Let me say that. Some of the fittest people I know. Okay, let me say that. But, like, how has that how are you all navigating that? Like, you're navigating being at work, like we just talked about the work-life balance, but you're navigating being at work all the time. But how are you trying to, take time to, hey, if I'm not at the at Tumble Smart, I need to go to the gym and I gotta go, hang out. I'm not gonna go to the gym today. I'm gonna go do work, but I'm gonna go hang out with my babies for, 2 or 3 hours, put my girls to bed, make sure, you know what I mean? Like, how are you all, navigating that part? And I know you kind of talked about that a little bit earlier, but you know, how are you keeping the wellness piece a part of the culture of your busy lives at this point?
I do feel that that's truly been one of the most difficult things that we as a couple and as a family have had to navigate and to find time for, because when you have business as a priority and family as a priority, then sometimes your wants and your desires of working out and going to the gym, that takes a back seat. So I know for me personally, it has been a challenge to be able to get back into the gym, especially just having Armani in 2020 and now being pregnant again. And so it's hard to get in there with kids, and but it is ultimately so important to put yourself and your health and your well-being as a priority, because if we're not around, then our business isn't around and our kids aren't around.
Yeah.
All of those things. So I think what we try to do is, if there's an opportunity in the schedule for one of us to go, it's like, okay, hey, I'm going to wake up early and I'm going to go, you got the girls, and vice versa. If he has a break in the middle of the day, then that's when, he'll put Armani down for a nap and I'll head to the gym.
Yeah.
And that's been my personal experience with it.
Yeah. And it's coming from two people that fitness, and we both did different forms of bodybuilding and stuff through before we knew each other. And so that's always been a very high top priority on our list as individuals. But I think now we're in a season of life to where we're learning not to judge ourselves either on if we're not in the gym 5 days a week, if we're not eating every meal that's home cooked and prepped, because that's something that we both were struggling with there for a little bit, where if we weren't in the gym, then we would be hard on ourselves, because we're like, oh man, like I haven't been in the gym. And so then we start to, get down about that. But like I said earlier, it all ebbs and flows. Like there's times to where we probably will put more of a priority in going and working out because we'll have the time to do that. And so I think that just in everything, my encouragement to anybody would be not to judge yourself if you do get off a little bit, because then what is more difficult to do is get back on. Like for us there for a while, if we go to the gym and we would go do like a 30-minute workout, then we would leave frustrated because we're like, oh my gosh, that was the worst workout of my life. Like I was in there, I barely warmed up and then it was over. But now we're pumped if we can go in for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And, oh man, like that was so awesome. I just got in the gym, I hit a couple sets and then did my thing and got out. So depending on what season of life you're in,
yes,
you got to do the best that you can, but not judge yourself on that whenever that's where you are currently, because it's not going to look like it did whenever we're single. It's not going to look like it did. And, and then maybe 10 years from now, whenever, we're the kids are older and we can go to the gym more often, like that's probably where we can get back to some of those old things that we used to do type of deal.
Yeah. I think it's really great. As you were talking, Levi, I think there's something key you said, especially towards the end about understanding seasons. I think sometimes and this is maybe a human problem, but I think we underappreciate the times we are in at certain moments in our lives. And we don't recognize that like those are opportunities to pursue certain things that we maybe are considering or thinking about, and we probably should do it. And that brings up a good question to me. Like, what were some of the things that you all saw in your single life, in your pre-Team Nickson life, that actually became foundational for you as some things that you just kept doing, or some things you kind of built just into your life that was helpful, that has carried over into your marriage in a way that has been very beneficial to how you all just approach just doing life together in this season?
I think one thing that we both have in common is just work ethic.
Yeah.
That was something that was instilled in me in a very young age and has been foundational for me throughout life. And then meeting Levi and coming into marriage and seeing a work ethic that matched mine, off the charts, like super important.
That was the same train of thought that I had as well.
See, y'all are married. See,
We're what, man? We're what? I think that's really good, because like there's times where she understands whenever I am in like grind mode. Like, for instance, 2 nights ago, I coached all day, and then I had this project that I was working on, this book that I was finishing up, that I had to finish, and I worked literally all night. Like, I didn't sleep. And then I woke up, or I didn't wake up. I continued my day into the next day, and I had to coach the rest of the day. But that was something that I know is going to build and leave a legacy that in that moment, that's what I had to do.
Yeah.
But she was 100% behind me, like, hey, what do you need? What can I do to help you? And supported me in that. And that's so amazing that, that's a thing that we both brought in and that we both understand about each other. And it's a really cool thing to be able to do that together.
Hi, everybody. Lee here, and I want to give some information to you. Do you need someone to host an event or come and speak at your event? You can now book yours truly. Book me for your event by visiting www.leascott.com. I am so excited to connect with you and do work with you. Much love, and let's get started.
Yeah. Were you about to say something, Christina?
No.
Oh, okay, good. I didn't want to cut you off. No, I think that's great. That's super helpful, and a lot of great questions have popped in my head as we've been talking, because I think this is honestly, I really hope when people watch this or listen to this, they will see an example of two whole people who were not going into a relationship trying to find identity, but 2 whole people who came into a relationship they might have not been perfect, but very whole for the most part. And when they approached each other in the relationship, they had a particular perspective, which is a great segue into my next question. Because my next question for both of you is, obviously, because you're 2 whole people, you had certain interests and things that you just like to do prior to being in a relationship, right? Like, there were just things that you just like, right? How are in what ways have you learned to embrace each other's interests, and like, how has each other's interests and things that you all just like to do as just people, how have you kind of been like, I'll try that just because you like it?
I think we both had a lot of the same interests, which made it easy. But I know, like, for myself, I'm always cool, enjoy trying new things. So anything that she wants to do, that she's interested in doing, I'll try it out. And especially if I know that she likes it and I get to see her enjoy and have joy in that, then it just makes me enjoy doing it. And it's the same thing, like anything. For instance, like, I used to golf whenever I was younger, and that's something that I've been to get back into. And she's been with me golfing. She a year ago, she bought me some golf clubs and got me a bunch of stuff.
Let's go.
And has been golfing with me, and she actually is really good. Like the first time she golf, but she actually was really, really good. But she's good at everything though. Like seriously, anything athletic, bro, freaking nature. But we
all can't be Christina.
But man, yeah. So we enjoy doing activities together, and it's a way of, I think, if nothing else, even like if I was speaking to a couple, even like if somebody's wife was wanting to do something that they didn't really have interest in, see it as a way of just spending time together.
Yeah.
Like just do it for the sake of your wife. You may end up even liking it yourself, you don't know. So
yeah,
of spending some time together.
Yeah. Christina?
I mean, I think Levi took it with that one. I don't know if that's much to add, but yeah, like you said, we were very similar coming in. So it wasn't like we had anything crazy that he'd be like, I'm not doing that. You can spend that time on it. But yeah, I like to see how, the like romantic comedies and movies and all of that, how much he actually enjoys them.
Really?
Fun pastime.
I do. I'm a sucker for
like those Netflix originals.
Yeah, I put with them.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of Netflix original, what some of you all have watched? Rom-coms that you watched like recently?
Cheesiest of cheesy on
Man,
Netflix.
Yeah.
You name it, we've seen it.
Everything on any. It's funny, like, it says this is like 99% matches what you like. It's all of like
every single one.
But I mean, it's with those movies, you always know the ending.
Yes.
Because like, we'll just like joke in the middle of like, you don't think they're gonna end up together? Like, but just you already know the ending. But I do enjoy that time together whenever we're.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, I'm I'm not a sucker for them. There are a few that I find to be great. And I know this is a tangent and it's my podcast. We can talk about this. Have you both seen Lovebirds? It's on Netflix.
We need to, maybe tonight.
Great idea. I'm just giving you a movie that you probably haven't seen, but it's called Lovebirds. It has Issa Rae and Kamal. What is Kamal's last name? I think his last name is not Johnny. I hope I said his last name right. But yes, it is. It's actually pretty funny, and it is one of those movies that's as we've seen, it's kind of one of those date night comedies that ends up having a crime thing happen, which is always great. Those are the ones I can deal with. You know what I mean? Like that one, and then probably one of my favorites is have you ever seen Date Night with
You can say that, bro.
One
of the crime things happen. That's what you mean, right? Like
yes.
Usually I thought Date Night.
Oh, when I tell you, Levi, I love that movie. I love Date Night, and there's another one that's kind of like that. And it just popped in my head, but I can't think of the name. It had Adam Sandler and it was Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston, I think. I can't think, and it's another Netflix movie. We got on a whole tangent about these type of movies, but these are but like finding somebody that has or an openness to do that is fantastic because it's an opportunity, like you said, Levi, for you to connect and grow together, right? Like that's ultimately what it's about, and I think that's a huge and just a beautiful and great thing. Like that's super amazing. So kind of staying right there with kind of the whole person thing, you both were in long-term relationships. Levi, you've been married previously. Christina, you were in a long-term relationship, and in those processes you had to have some self-discovery, right? Like you had to reconcile some things, you had to really deal with those realities, right? So how did your process of growing and learning more about yourself, how has that influenced your perspective about each other now that you're married?
Are you saying like post relationship, like after, like
Yeah.
we're
Let me clarify that question. What I mean by that is, what have you learned about yourself that has influenced how you approached your marriage at this point? Like, what are some things that you kind of discovered along the way that has really played a role in like, I see this about myself. How do I need to approach this? Like, what are those things, or what are some of those things you've experienced?
I'll just speak broadly to that question first, but I think that anytime you're in a relationship, it's a time for self-reflection.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're communicating, you're learning not only about that person, but you should be learning about yourself. And through my previous relationship and then that time after with God and the growth that occurred in that time, I think we talk about it all the time of like, if we would have met sooner, I wouldn't have liked you, and you probably wouldn't have liked the person that I was, because that growth occurred after for a reason. And so you take those learning lessons and apply them to that next relationship, to that forever, to any relationship that you're in, even friendship, you can apply those, which is just so important for your growth in general. But specifically, I think communication has been a big one. Just learning how to communicate with people is important, and communicating with Levi when I'm upset, in relationship, that can be a very easy thing to do, is to shut down or to get angry and to not express that, but to be able to just talk about anything and everything from, this is why I'm mad, this is what happened, and using I feel statements is very so
see you were a therapist. You definitely were a counselor.
So that's one thing that I learned from previous relationship, of just not bottling those things up and communicating with him outright, no matter how I'm feeling in the moment.
That's good.
I think for me, realizing that even no matter how right or correct I feel, or that I know that I am in a situation, to look at the other person's perspective, no matter what. In the past, I would look at whatever the situation was from my viewpoint, from my lens, so to speak, and to realize that the other person feels as strongly on the other side of things.
Yes.
You're right, and this is the stance that you're taking. That's how that person feels. So let me try to see it from her perspective, and really, like, I really try to do that, even if like logically it just does not make any sense at all. I'm like, let me make it make sense so that I can see where she's coming from. And then a lot of times whenever you do that, then you're able to drop the pride and then say, maybe they're right, or maybe there is I can compromise on my end, and then we can meet in the middle. And it makes it a lot easier to come together and to make a decision whenever you hear that person, not just hear them, but actually see what they're saying, investigate and say, let me look into that some more.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I don't have a response to that. To be honest, I really don't. I think you all gave great insight on really seeing, like, understanding yourself, and like that was a great point, Christina, about making I feel statements, because I think sometimes we assume that the person that we're in a relationship knows how we feel. And I think it's very powerful what you said, Levi, in even though I may be right, being right is not the most important thing in this conversation. Like that if we could teach people how to do that, it will save them a whole lot of heartache and headaches, because sometimes it's actually okay to shut up. And we're like, you know what?
Have you read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People?
No. I probably need to read it.
Bro, it's a classic, and it's very, very, I mean, along those lines, it talks a lot about that. I won't spoil the book for you, but he just talks about how there's people, a lot of times, whether you own a business or you're in a relationship, whatever the case is, you're wasting so much time trying to change people to force people to see your viewpoint.
Wow.
If you just, kind of kick back, like, it really doesn't matter that much. Like, and you just put your guard down, and you don't always have to be right. And it's a game changer, because you don't stress yourself out so much.
Oh yeah.
Like, okay, cool. Yeah. And just so that's a good book, man. Check that out. And anybody that's watching, any of the viewers, if you haven't read that book, listen to the audio book, however you do it.
Yeah. As on that drive, we're like, oh yeah, he's making a great point. Let me rewind 30 seconds. Wait.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That was pretty good. It's great. So let's move on a little bit. And we're kind of getting towards the end, but like, I've enjoyed having this conversation with you all. It's been so fun and so great to hear you all's story and just your perspective about like what health looks like in relationships. Because there's a lot of people making decisions right now relationally, and I've done it too. And we make a lot of decisions because we don't think that we can get the best. So we become complacent and allow stuff to happen. And I think you all are just a great example of people who stay to their values, who stay to who they are, who were true to what they believe and what they thought. And there was a reward in that, because it made it so much more healthy when you all came together. So one of my last questions for you all is, and both of you, I would love to hear it from both of you, especially on this question, is what is one piece of advice you would give to people who are dating and want to be married? Like, what is something that you would just say, hey, this is one thing I would advise you on?
You just want more time to think.
Now you give the best advice to people.
So people that are dating, that they themselves are ready to move to that next step of marriage.
Yes, or that is a conversation that they are having and saying, hey, hey, they're being intentional. Hey, we're dating, but hey, I'm not dating you just to be dating you. I actually want to someday be married. Like, what is some piece of advice you would give to them?
God first, always. He's got to be first. Like, and I could leave it right there. That could be
all right, guys. Well, we're done with this interview. It's fine.
But if that was like the only piece of advice that I had, that would be enough. God has to be in the center of the relationship. And then after that, like morals and values and the things that you hold on to, those things have to be in alignment. Yeah. And if they are not before marriage, it's only going to get worse after marriage. Yeah. And that, I think, is what you see, especially young relationships, or people who have been together even for quite some time. They think that just because in dating they can't agree on something, that when they get married, those things are okay. But in reality, they're heightened. Yeah. And so making sure your core value systems align is vital to a successful marriage. And that goes from everything to raising children, to finances. I mean, that's a huge one. You want to make sure that those, like the big five, like all of the things that you value are in line with that person.
Yeah.
That would be my biggest piece of advice for those that are seeking out marriage.
And I think to add to that, to have the conversation as far as what your true intentions are. And you pose the question as if two people were talking about moving in that direction, but truly I would say what I've learned from Christina in our time through marriage is she is all about not what people say, but what people do. And if somebody's saying, hey, like I really want to get married and that's what I want to move towards, but their actions aren't showing you that, so that's because people can say things people can talk. And I know that like I believe people, I'm quick to believe people based off of what they say. And Christina's taught me a lot about, hey, what's the thing to say about people's patterns?
Patterns, not people, because people will always show you who they are by the patterns that they
So
that's good.
They can talk and they can say, hey, this, that. And we deal with this all the time when it comes to hiring people at our business. And we see it happen where someone says, hey, I'm going to do this, and this, and I'm really going to, take your classes to the next level. I really want this to be my career and I'm going to dedicate myself. And then, they're asking off every other day, or they're doing things, so, and at first, I may be pumped after the interview. I'm like, oh man, this is the one, like this person's we can really invest into this person. And Christina's like, well, let's wait. Let's see over time if they're showing us that. And it's not always the case. Some people will say all these great things and it doesn't pan out. And I'm like, dang, okay, you're right.
And I think I don't know this for certain, but I think it's Benjamin Franklin that said, well done is better than well said. Mm-hmm. And I think that's
Wow. You just in that small, such great advice. That was such great advice. And I think it also shows in you all's relationships how who you are as people, there's such balance. Like your personalities are so different, and that's why it works, right? Levi, I'm like you. I'm very much so like when I meet people and I feel like it's gonna be good, I'm like, yeah, let's go, let's do it, and like it's so beautiful to see that you have a wife that's like, Christina's like, hold on, brother, like
she'll slow me down in a hot second. I'll come in so pumped up about something, and she'll say like, wait, like let's look at all the logistical things. Think about it. And she's like, yeah, we need to look at this, or we need to wait. We need to be patient. We need to see if this happens. We need to see if this person's really going to come through to do what they said they're going to do, or whatever the case is. And that used to be something that, I would get so bummed about if I was super pumped about something, and then she would come in and not shut it down, but she would help me to not make that decision based off of my heightened emotion of being excited. So she's always done a very good job about that.
But that's also something to remember in marriage or in a relationship, is to not put out the other person's flame. So that was something that we definitely had to work through of, even though I'm seeing stuff from a logical standpoint and not going based off of feeling or emotion, I have to still be excited for the things that he's excited for. And you can have that moment of excitement and step back and then say, okay, now what is the reality of it?
Right.
Oh, that's so good. It's like, that's really helpful. Were you about to say something else, Christina?
Yeah. So in our first year of marriage, one other piece of advice that I would give to those who are seeking marriage, Levi had the phrase, bury your expectations. And I think that's so key.
Say it again. Run that back.
Bury your expectations. Yeah, because that is one thing that we've constantly had of like, you as an individual, you have expectations of what it's going to look like, what you thought, the day was going to be, what you thought the week was going to be, what you thought, parenting was going to be, marriage, all of these things. And so you come in with those as individuals, but as a couple, it doesn't always look that way. And so our first year of marriage was truly burying our expectations of what we thought this marriage was going to look like, what we thought it would be, and going from that point on.
I think you might strike some nerves with that one. That's very good. Because that just, yes, that just doesn't apply to marriage. Like, that applies to life. If we look at our lives, nothing we expected to happen the way that it did happened the way that it did. Like, nothing. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, if you said, Lee, hey, 19-year-old Lee, 18, 19-year-old Lee, if my life would have looked like how I thought it was going to look, I would have been like, ha! What? Like, nothing. Yeah. Not even one thing. Nothing that has happened in the last decade of my life has happened the way that I thought it was going to happen. But I think the beautiful thing is, I think all of us, even in this conversation, are grateful that it happened that way, because it exceeded our expectation, and it played out in a way that it made us better people. Because sometimes life is not about getting what you want. It's about you actually becoming a better person so that you can handle the things that you're about to walk into. Right. And I think that's so good. Oh my gosh. I got to make that a reel, because, I'm gonna just make that one specific part and post it, because I'm like, that's the whole interview right there. Hey,
take that part and make a song out of it. Make a little remix.
That would be so great. That would be so great. But moving on, because I got two more questions, and then I know I'm gonna let you go on about your business and go do other things and reconnect and get some rest, because it's been a long day. Probably, I don't know. But
a long day.
You hear those little screams in the background?
Yeah. I just noticed. But my next to last question is something that I get asked all the time, or excuse me, I actually was asked this about 3 or 4 years ago when I worked for TTCU Federal Credit Union. One of the executives at our company would always, she asked me this question, and she made this statement to me, but it also led to me asking this question. And I always ask people, how are you paying it forward? And what I mean by that is, what is something that you're doing to contribute to other people in a positive and productive way as a couple? Like, what is something that you all are doing as Team Nickson to really like empower couples or empower your single friends or folks that that come into your space and just want to glean from you all?
I think both of us spend a lot of time around kids with just due to the nature of our work, of our business, and so something that was put on my heart, and I know Christina, she has a heart for kids, and kids, especially kids that are underserved in the community. So through our gym, we have an organization that we call Who Gives the Flip. So it's just like a play on words of tumbling.
That's genius.
Yeah. So through that, we give back to our community by we'll have different groups of kids from, whether it's like a church group from the north side of Tulsa, that brings their kids to our gym, and we'll give our whole Saturday afternoon to bring those kids in that would never have a chance to come into to be able to do tumbling, and we'll love on them, and we'll just hang out with them and do things like that, or be able to sponsor kids to come into our gym and tumble that their parents don't have the money to do it, or whatever the case is. And when kids are in here, like, my number one thing beyond teaching them backflips is building confidence. In teaching them to believe in themselves, and all the things that I believe coaches should do, because coaches are very influential in people's lives. Like almost everybody is like, man, I remember I had that one coach that said such and such thing or taught me this.
Yes.
And that is what I want to be in Christina to be to these kids.
Yes.
I mean, it's not just me being in the gym. They love Christina so much and look up to her. These young girls, they look up to her so much, and she's able to help them and lead them. And even parents that come in, man.
Wow.
And our coaches that come in. So I started talking about the organization, but even just on a day-to-day basis, we give back to our employees, and we give back to just the people that is in our space. And I mean, Christina will take people our coaches into our office and talk to them, for hours sometimes after classes are over, helping them. Or the same with me, I'll sit down and talk with the coach and help give them some guidance. So just in any way, man, like what we do at our gym is so much more than financially based. Like that is more important than anything else for us.
And also just raising up the next generation. So paying it forward by investing in our children and making sure that they are good, responsible people that love Jesus, love other people, have a hard work ethic, and are independent, like have a mind of their own. I feel like that in general is just paying it forward for generations and generations to come, to invest in your children and what you have in front of you. And not just our children, like he was saying, and any child, any parent, any teacher, anybody who walks through this door.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. And Levi, when you said what you said about coaches, I literally went back to a moment that happened to me a few months ago. I was literally oddly enough, I was at a funeral, and the man that was preaching or ministering at the funeral was a football coach that I had when I was like 12 years old. And I never forgot him. Coach Ronald Pat. I like, when you talk about coaches, you remembering coaches, like literally immediately when you said, I was like, Coach Pat. I literally thought of him. And I remember walking. I told my mom when he was up there sharing and ministering, and I told my mom, I said, Mom, I'm going to go speak to Coach Pat. He probably doesn't remember me, but I'm going to go speak to him. And I remember going to speak to him, and he was so excited that I remembered who he was. Like, it brought me joy to know that he actually realized that he made an impact on my life. And that was 15 years ago, like 15, 16 years ago. Like, just having that perspective, you probably have already had those moments. You probably had a few, but like, they are going to come back and be like, Coach Nickson, bro, you were so great, man. You know what I'm saying? I can't flip anymore, but like, bro, you were great.
Right. That's the stuff that they're gonna remember. They're not gonna all of the the skills and stuff that I teach them. That's that's cool that they learn those things.
Right.
It's just about the confidence and the person that they are. That's what I care about more than anything. Yes.
That's so great. And we're getting towards the end. Once again, thank you all. It's been super fun to have you on, and I think people are going to be inspired and encouraged. And I kind of preemptively gave you all this question. I hope you still have your answer, Levi, for this question. But I ask it to everybody when I end. I always ask, what song will you use to describe yourself and why? And since you already know Levi, I'm gonna let you go first.
All right. So the song is by the artist NF, and it's called Layers. And
okay,
you know that song? I don't know if you listen to NF.
No, but I've heard some NF songs.
Yeah, and it's a good one. A lot of his songs, just the things because he talks a lot about going back to a part of our conversation, work ethic, and something I value as a part of who I am. he talks a lot about that in his music, and particularly in this song. There's this one part where he talks about how he's okay with losing sleep if it means that he can watch his dreams. And I mean, we talked about earlier in the interview how I pulled an all-nighter to finish this project that I was working on. And I mean, that happens fairly often, right? Like I would say it as like, I'm proud of that. Like, oh, I just stay up all night and grind and work. But I mean, it does happen. And the first time I heard that song, I mean, it just gave me the chills because so many things that I could relate to him with that song and the different layers of who he was as a person. Except for NF, he's a little bit more dark than I am. Like, he's a little bit more on the pessimistic side with things he talks about. So that song, if you could imagine it with more of a positive, optimistic type of person. But yeah, so go check it out, listen to that song, or anybody else that's watching this, check that song out.
Christina?
This is the funny part of like just personality and differences, because when you sent this, he was like, yeah, and he had this song right away. And
I read it. I read your question. Within a moment, I was like, I already know what song. And I actually have a playlist on my Spotify that's called the Coach Levi. And it's like what I listen to when I'm lesson planning and kind of getting to go coach and stuff. And it's the first song that's on there. So it's like, before I even heard that question, I was like, I already know. But sorry, go ahead.
And then you have me over here stressing, like, oh, man, this is not fun.
Leave with that question, bro. Yeah, I like it.
That's great.
But if I had to pick one song, it would just be the chorus of this song, but it would be Fighter by Christina Aguilera.
Seems like it's probably up your lane.
Yeah, so not just made me that much stronger, made me, wiser, all of those things. When I reflect on that, I just think about like where I came from, the people that raised me, and how what they poured into me made me all of those things. And so,
but you're also a boxer, so it makes sense.
Yeah,
That's great.
I have some amateur boxing in my past.
So.
Okay.
Yeah. Christina, I like that. That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. I like that. I didn't know her answer to that question, so I was waiting to hear
it. Yeah. Well, Christina and Levi, like it's been such a joy, and I am super inspired by you both, and just your story and your perseverance and the great memories that you are making now. But the investment that you're making in people is going to pay off so beautifully in the end and much later in life. So thank you all for coming on. It's been really, really, really great.
And if I can say one more thing, Lee, I really appreciate and admire how consistent I've seen you with what you do, man. Like, I mean, with your events and with doing your podcasting and watching you on social media, and it's really inspiring, man. It really, really is. So I appreciate. So you asking us to be on here was a real honor. It really was.
Oh, thank you, Levi. I so appreciate it. I wasn't expecting it. Thank you. I wasn't gonna have. I almost had a moment. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. If you have not done it yet, subscribe on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. If you want to get more information and connect with me, visit me at www.leascott.com or follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Lee A. Scott II or Lee A. Scott II. So, thank you for watching. Much love, and let's get started.